call the meeting to order. As you notice, there's a couple few, not quite as many of us as usual. Neither Ken nor Lori could be here, and that their absences were planned. And so we'll try our best to muddle through. Bear with me, I'm lost here. In closed session, we discussed the issues that were on the agenda, and we did reach a reportable conclusion. As you recall, at a prior board meeting, there was discussion about purchase of property over at the corner of Mooney and Tulare. Anyway, there was an appraisal made, was ordered by the board, paid for by the college for that property. And board member Sherman made the motion, and board member Mann seconded the motion. And we unanimously voted to affirm the appraisal for the strip retail center and land parcel located at 1117 through 1127 Moody Boulevard, Visalia, California. The appraised value was $1.735 million. And the board further formed the rationale for paying, let me back up. The board prior had offered $1.9 million. And the board further affirmed the rationale for paying $165,000 over the appraisal based on the competitive basis on the bids and the value of the property in the district master plan. We also took into consideration that if we passed, because we didn't want to come up with an extra $165,000, what would Plan B be? Well, there's lots of Plan Bs, and in our judgment, all the Plan Bs cost more than $165,000. And we believe it's important to have the campus complete by buying that particular piece of property. And so we have authorized the staff to proceed. And that, anyway, that vote was unanimous. Let's see, where are we next here? Oh, Pledge of Allegiance. Hi.
Hi.
Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, any person may address the board on any item of interest. I'm a little rusty here, you know.
Just take your time. Just take your time.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board for any topic that is on the agenda? Hearing none, does anyone in the audience wish to address the board on any item not on the agenda, but within the purview of the authority of the board? Hearing none, we'll go on to the agendas. Do we have a student trustee report?
So in this past month, we have had a lot of events happen. Our Student Senate class actually has been beta testing our new website that we're going to be having, and I believe that we're going to push it in spring, but we're not going to push all the students to use it until fall of 2018. And then we've also done beta testing on degree work, so all of the people in Student Senate class, we do have access to that on our portal, and it's really cool because it lets students plan out their SEP just with the students. And then also we're having our board meeting, I believe next weekend, or this weekend, and our board is going on a retreat. And then I've partnered with Puente and Student Success, and we're actually getting a Dreamer Center here on campus in a way, because we're gonna have it centered at Student Success to where any of our students who are DACA recipients, or that they for some reason came here and then they want to pursue an education, they're able to, and they don't feel like they're like they can't. And a lot of students had dropped out before we had that, so now we have a program for that, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. O'Keefe? Thank you very much. Are there any board member reports?
I can report that we held the COS. I didn't see Tim here. The foundation had their retreat a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that came out of it is they want to do a scholarship for students, COS students going to the COS Visalia, the Fresno State Visalia campus, and they want to start a scholarship program for those students, and which was, everybody was pretty excited about going that way. And the other thing is they need more board members, and we've come up with a list of them. I've talked to several people that would certainly be interested in serving on that board. So if Tim wants to get a hold of me, I can give him the details.
Thank you, Earl.
Attended the Hall of Fame dinner the other evening. It was very well attended, and we had 4 very deserving candidates installed into the Hall of Fame, and it was a very enjoyable evening.
Thank you. I'd like to talk a bit about the search for superintendent president for the college. As everyone in this room probably knows, the college initially began work with ACCT and also with Tom Harris, who is a consultant to ACCT. Circumstances led to Dr. Harris withdrawing, and the board continued to have discussions, or I should say mostly Ken continued to have discussions with ACCT for a replacement for Dr. Harris. And ultimately, board made the decision to change consultants and went with CCSS, which is Community College Search Services. Most of you are familiar with them. We've used them before. They were the consultants for when you were hired. Mm-hmm. They were the consultants when Scroggins was hired. They actually, Dr. Fernandez, who founded that organization, was an interim president here for nearly a year. That firm then places with us a person who we will have direct contact with that actually runs the search. That person, who you probably know, is Dr. Eva Conrad. Now, I believe they have 8 former president, chancellors with that firm who do search consultants, and the other 7 will assist Dr. Conrad as well. This came about Thursday, and so there's been some last-minute hurry-up stuff in order to try and meet to get back on our schedule. She had some very strong opinions about the document that we were about to put out for announcing the position, and had some recommendations about how to change it. She worked with Ken Nunes and myself, mostly with Ken Nunes, to do that, and today that document was posted online, or I think it was. Was it, John?
Yes, it was.
Up in the morning?
This afternoon about 2 o'clock.
About 2 o'clock. I think that it was quite an improvement. It has a much more upbeat tone than the previous one. So anyway, I thought you all would like to know that. It was kind of an unusual circumstance the way it turned out, but in order to stay on schedule, we just felt more comfortable dealing with, well, not just stay on schedule, we just felt more comfortable with CCSS. We've had experience with them, and we know that Dr. Conrad knows this institution very well from the accreditation issues. She worked very closely with Dr. Trimble as well as the rest of us. So anyway, that's done. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's good, John. Thanks.
Mr. Brack, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I do not.
Let's see, is there a foundation report?
I am going to report tonight that Mr. Foster was unable to be here, and he apologizes. He actually provides some support care for both of his parents, and they had a little incident this evening that required him to be there to avoid a greater emergency. So he's not able to be here, and we don't have a foundation report for that reason.
You want to add to any of that, Greg, or?
No, pretty much, no.
All right.
I think the foundation's doing well. So.
Right, and he'll, you know, Mr. Foster, he'll catch us up at the next report. If he were here, he would want to make sure that we noted the Hall of Fame. I want to thank Board Member Mann for his acknowledgement of that. And that was probably the biggest event that he would have been making a report on, so.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Lacerda, do you have an accreditation report?
Good evening. The accreditation work group sent out the second draft of Standard 2, or it's our first draft, but it's of Standard 2, the Student Learning Programs and Support Services, to the COS community, and requested feedback by the end of October, and we will be sharing Standard 3 in November. The Academic Senate and the Institutional Planning and Effectiveness Committee Strategic Plan Summit was held on September 29th with almost 120 participants in attendance from faculty, staff, administrators, board members, students, and community members. And the culminating feedback when it was sent out to the Strategic Plan Task Force co-chairs to review and include in the next drafts of the objectives. The Strategic Plan draft will be shared with the Board of Trustees at the board retreat in January. And as I mentioned last time, Dr. Stephanie Joker, the Vice President of ACCJC, will visit COS on Tuesday, November 7th for a pre-accreditation site visit meeting and workshop. The tentative agenda is 12 to 1 meeting with senior administration, followed by a campus tour from 1 to 2. She'll be meeting with the Distance Education at COS DECOS committee from 2 to 2:30, and then we will have a open forum from 3 to 5 p.m. an opportunity to ask questions and get some answers from the ACCJC. On the statewide level with the ACCJC, there were 2 new staff members hired. Vice President Gohar Momjian, she's formerly from the City College of San Francisco and most recently at Kenyatta College, and a new Vice President, Dr. Stephen Reynolds, who was formerly at the College of the Siskiyous and also served as a commissioner on the ACCJC. And finally, Dr. Nguyen, the new president of ACCJC, will be holding a webinar with the recent changes in ACCJC practices that they've designed to improve educational programming and communications. And the 2 webinars, there's one on Monday, October 23rd from 11 to 12, and Wednesday, November 1st from 3 to 4 p.m. And I believe anybody can call in and listen to those. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Lacerda? Thank you, Jeff. Superintendent report, Mr. Carrizosa.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of comments to build on a part of the update that our student representative Bella shared with us regarding the most recent expectations for our community colleges in the kind of emerging DACA environment with the new changes in federal legislation and now state interpretations of those. Assembly bill, and this was prepared by our Student Services Office. Thank you, Vice President Calvin and staff for helping us with this information. But Assembly Bill 209 was passed in the spring of 2016, and it requires California community colleges to identify at least 1 member to serve as a liaison to DACA students, and that expectation was to be in place by the 2017-18 year. We have actually identified several people, including our EOP&S staff at all 3 College of the Sequoias campuses and sites, an ESL counselor, and a staff person in the Visalia Counseling Office, and then the coordinators and counselors in the Student Success Center. The bill also requested that California community colleges consider advertising dream centers or one-stop shops for services. So we had a small team visit Fresno State and Fresno City College recently and are considering if and how we would do something like this on our campus, and I think that's what Bella was referring to. It does not require a separate physical office. In fact, they recommend using existing offices at high traffic places for students like your EOP&S office, your financial aid office, or counseling. So we have essentially been doing this with the offices identified above, but we will consider identifying just one location and advertising it a little more clearly as an opportunity to reach out to our DACA students. For the record, we have just over 400, maybe 450 DACA students. Last year, financial aid processed 450 DREAM Act applications, allowing those DACA students to access the Board of Governors waiver for waiving of fees and tuition. And so far this year, we have processed 438 DACA applications or DREAM Act applications. So we wanted to give you an update because we know that that's in the headlines every other day or so, and wanted to make sure you as our board and our public had an update on what we're doing in response to that and in making sure that we provide guidance and outreach for our students. That's all.
Any comment from the board or questions? Thank you. Dr. Trimble, do you have an academic Senate President's Report update?
Take one giant step backwards. Tonight I want to present a little synopsis of the evaluation for last year's Academic Senate and its committees. In the process of developing our governance system, one of the things we did is we ensured that we would have ongoing evaluation of all of our senates and committees, and this is the Academic Senate's version of that. And as Senate President, I review all of their initiatives and their outcomes in their tract-ats, which they report out to the Academic Senate at the end of year reports. And I compile that, and then I look at the survey that is given to all of the senators as well as all of the members of all of our committees, and then I consolidate that into this report. So the first part of the report is just showing the initiatives that the various groups had and what their current status is. And the vast majority of both the Senate and its committees did complete or were satisfactory on their initiatives, with two exceptions. One exception was the Curriculum Committee. They have carried forward 3 of their 6 initiatives, and Equity Committee has carried forward all 3 of theirs. So it's a significant amount of for each, well, obviously equity is 100%, they did not complete their initiatives. And basically one of the things we have talked about is the issue with making the initiatives too large. Initiatives by definition are supposed to be things that can be completed within 1 year. So both of the committees need to look at whether or not they've just set the goal too high to complete within 1 year, or whether or not, and it would be more advantageous just to break it down into smaller pieces of the pie in order to complete it on time. And we'll come back to some other things to do with equity a little bit later. So the second part of the evaluation is the district questionnaire. And so I just put all of the committees in a table for the standardized questionnaire that goes out to not only our committees, but all of the governance committees on campus. And again, I'm fairly pleased with the outcome. The vast majority of all the participants believe that the Senate and its committees were meeting their responsibilities. Again, Equity Committee had the highest percentage of disagreement with that statement of meeting its roles and responsibilities. Adequate and appropriate resources. Here again, the vast majority agreed. And interestingly, over the last 2 years in the open-ended part of the survey, where any member could say what they thought needed to happen, there were a lot of fair requests, reassigned time, stipends, things like that. That was not the case. this particular survey. So that in and of itself was an improvement. Again, the next question had to do with the workload of the committees. And here again, the vast majority, a little bit of disagreement with curriculum, but curriculum is a huge task. And it pretty much always will be. It's just the nature of the committee. But the vast majority of all of the other committees agreed or strongly agreed that the workload was appropriate for those committees. Committee was effective in completing its initiatives. Here again, vast majority agreed. Interestingly, the largest disagreement was with Faculty Enrichment Committee and Equity. Equity is understandable since, in fact, they did not complete their initiatives, but Faculty Enrichment Committee, in fact, completed all initiatives. So some of their committee members either weren't aware of what the initiatives were or thought there were some other initiatives that should have been there that didn't get completed. But they, in fact, did complete everything on their plate. Senates and committees stayed on task. Again, vast majority agreed that the committees stayed on task. And Robert's Rules, one of the things in the past that we'd have trouble with is some of the smaller committees do not actually govern themselves by Robert's Rules. So we got a lot of strongly disagree because, in fact, they don't use Robert's Rules in the smaller committees. That's improved simply because of now putting it in their bylaws that we agree that we're not going to follow Robert's Rules. So now we can agree that we don't agree, that we agree that we don't follow Robert's Rules. The second part I'm not going to go over in any detail, but I did list out on the evaluation all of the open-ended comments from the various committees after the on the questionnaire, and many of these were actually developed and with an eye towards improving the workings of the committees, which is good because again gives us things to think about going forward. What I want to talk a little bit more about are some of the initiatives. Is it at the end of this one? Is it just going to scroll over? Okay. Are the initiatives that are coming forward for this year. And because for the first time, we have developed a joint initiative with the District Governance Senate. When we developed our new governance system, the Equity Committee originally reported to the Old College Council. And at that time, the Equity Committee was primarily involved with diversity activities and heritage activities here on the campus. And in this new rendition, it didn't really fit with District Governance Senate, so we moved it to Academic Senate, and it still had some of the charges of the original Equity Committee, but it also picked up charges for some of the new initiatives that were coming out of the legislature and the Chancellor's office, having to do with things like the equity plan. And what's happened in the last couple of years as the equity plan and the basic skills and what's the other one? SSSP. Can't even keep track of all the letters. They've come out and we've all been complaining about how alike but how different they are and having these different charges. And so the state has finally decided to try and integrate them all into one. And this year, for the first time, they're having a standardized one report back to the Chancellor's office. But at this point, it's all the same reports. They've just stacked them one on top of the other. So that part hasn't changed. But going forward, they're really looking at trying to integrate them. And unfortunately for us, they call it integrated planning, which we have named something entirely different. So it will be confusing going forward. But anyway, the new integrated planning has specific guidelines for who needs to be involved in developing the plans, making sure that things are happening and the money's going where it needs to go. And it includes input from Academic Senate, input from administration, input from the the student services areas. And we felt that at this point it was probably a good idea to look at the Equity Committee, given their difficulties that they are recognizing themselves as having in fulfilling their charge, and going forward, ensuring that all the appropriate constituencies have input into this new integrated plan, that now is a good time to look at their charge. And in meeting with Brent, we decided that we would go forward with a joint initiative to try and see whether or not we want to rename the committee, just restructure it, split out the heritage aspects, and at the end of deciding what would be best for doing that, then decide, based on their charges, where would it be appropriate that they would report to. Would it still be appropriate to report to the Academic Senate? Would it be best to go back to District Governance Senate? If we decide that we split off the heritage aspects, that might be a good thing that they could report to the Student Senate. So there's lots of possibilities going forward. But this is the first time that we're going to take a concerted look at an integral part of our governance process since we instituted it, with an eye towards making some potentially substantial changes. So I wanted to point that out. Were there any other questions on any of the other initiatives? Or
Questions?
Good.
Thank you. Costa President's Report update, Mr. Hurst.
No report, sir.
Thank you. CSEA,
I would just like to quickly lay some kudos down to some of our CSEA staff and their administrators. This weekend, the Theater Arts threw a huge event on campus with well over 1,000 people attending, and it was a great event, but it couldn't have happened without a lot of hard work. And from Byron and his staff, especially the custodians and grounds, they were there beforehand and they were there during the event. And it made me proud to be a CSEA member, because these men and women did a great job and made a great event. So I just wanted to lay kudos down to Byron and the staff. Thank you.
thank you. Under first information item is the annual report on the College Sequoia.
Sorry.
What? What did I do this one?
Just Kasafa.
Boy, am I rude.
She's coming up.
Kasafa, Ms. Erickson. I didn't mean to. You wouldn't believe my bookkeeping up here. Well, it's not, but thank you anyway.
You might remember that last meeting was the first time I had a chance to address you as the new president. I had found out that Friday afternoon previous that I was going to be representing the Adjunct Faculty Association, and jumped right into it with our bargaining meetings. And one of the things I forgot to do last meeting was to introduce the other people who are part of our board. So just to make it easier for you to spell, and then for the members of the committee, I wanted to let you know who the officers were and my contact information if you should ever need to contact me. What was it? A week and a half ago, I think, we attended the Strategic Summit, and I had a chance to sit at a table with Isabella and Shane. And one of the things that Shane said when he found out that I was the new president, he said, "Oh, you still haven't negotiated yet?" And I said, no, take it easy. I said, I just got elected, and we negotiated on Monday. So I just want to say thank you to President Stan, and to Vice President Brent, and to Dr. Lucerna, and to Dean John, because I thought we had a very candid and very cordial meeting. I thought it was swift, it was concise, and I really appreciated all of your time and your support, and our continued support and common ground for students. Thank you very much.
I'll try not to ignore you next time. Leads us now to the annual report on the College Sequoia's high school partnerships. Dr. Cerna.
Thank you so much. And this is our annual opportunity to update you on the partnerships that we have with our local high schools. And so I'm going to be talking about our dual enrollment program. And before that, we have two guests here, the principal of University Preparatory High School, UPHS, on our campus, Principal Eric Thiessen, and from Visalia Technical Early College High School, the principal, Vicki Porter. And Eric's going to start us off, then Vicki, and then I'll round us up with dual enrollment. So I think you push this one. Yep, so that's it. Okay, thanks, Eric.
Well, good evening, board members. President Carrizosa, thanks for letting us be here to report on our high schools and maybe even brag a little bit about the accomplishments of our school. University Preparatory High School, we're in our 8th year here on campus, and every year seems to get better and better. Our students are taking more and more college classes, but I want to give you some highlights of last year. Currently, we have 240 students enrolled here at UPHS. I'm sorry, for this year. A little bit of highlights for last year. We currently have, and I didn't fill this in when I typed this out because I wanted to be as accurate as possible, 150 of our students are enrolled of a total of 260 college classes throughout. And this is a wide range of classes from our language classes, Spanish and American Sign Language, to anything from a PE class to Psychology 1 to English 1 to math to science. We tell the students the classes are theirs if they meet the qualifications, and go for it. Even going down to Tulare campus if they show desire for the classes that are offered down there. Last year, this is a highlight. Last year, 4 of our graduates graduated from COS with a degree. One of those students had 4 associate degrees last year alone. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. But it's something that we're proud of. So in our 8 years, our last 7 years, we have 6 students who've graduated from COS the same year as high school with a total of 11 degrees. We don't emphasize going for a degree. We do emphasize the IGETC. Get your general ed done, be familiar with college, be able to self-advocate for yourself, for your college classes. Because as we tell parents when our initial interview is, you cannot go to your college professor, your son or daughter's professor, and fight the fight for them. They have to do it on their own. And so that's what we teach our students and our parents as well. So they're learning that. Some academic data. Being a science guy, I love data. And so just this last school year, in the fall, we had 144 students total complete 647 credits with an average GPA of 3.11. In spring of 2017, we had 151 students complete 671 credits for a GPA of 3.116. So a lot of consistency across the board. And then last summer, and we appreciate that the summer sessions are back because of all I think this is how our students get to earn their AA degrees, is they knock out a lot of classes during the summertime. 168 students combined completed 524 credits with an average GPA of 3.12. So on average, our students are keeping their overall GPA above a 3.1, which makes us very happy. And as you probably know, I'll remind you, in their high school transcript, much like an AP class, their college class, they get an extra grade point. So our valedictorian last year graduated with a GPA overall for the 4 years of about 4.55. So these students work very hard, and that's what they come to UPHS for, is for the college experience. They want to get a head start on their college career. 3 highlights to close this out. One, our first students, class of 2016-17, 1,842 credits altogether. Now, Brent Calvin has told me over and over again how to calculate FTEs, and I'm still trying to figure that out, but I'd like to know what that FTE is, and I think it's fairly high. But a lot of credits that our students complete, which is awesome. 34 of our 51 students from last year, class of 17, chose to remain at COS for a variety of reasons, from family to financial reasons. But I think the biggest one is they're already on their way to completing their general ed requirements, and they figure, let's complete them here before we move on to our 4-year university. And finally, another piece of data that we're starting to track is last year, 60 of our students placed into English 1, 41 students placed into Math 154. As a part of our accreditation, we are trying to track that data. And so our counselor, Sari Pennington, who is now also an adjunct counselor, has allowed us to track that data, and we put it into our student database as well. So that follows students as they move on to college class. And I point this out with the Cal CSU system going away from placement tests and remediation articles I've read, is our goal is to our students place into these classes before they graduate high school. We want them actually taking English 1 by their senior year and Math 154 or equivalent class by their junior or senior year. So we continue that seamless transition in math from high school into college. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you.
Leads us to the consent calendar. I'll read. What am I hitting? What
He's a football fan, he wants to get home.
Sit back. We have VTech, and then Jennifer will finish the dual enrollment.
I'll be glad when Stan gets back.
Stan?
There we go.
Stan's here. I'm taking you to dinner after this.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Vicki Porter. I'm the principal at VTech High School. We have this is our 7th year in existence. We started in 2010. The interesting thing about our school is we are now completely filled for our enrollment. We don't project that we'll be growing much more than we are now. We are at 301 students. We'll probably grow to about 315 when our classes are completely filled out. We have waiting lists on all of our grade levels. But we have kind of changed our student population a little bit. When we started, we had, we were trying to sell the whole idea of an early college. We were just trying to get anybody in the doors that would come in the doors. And so I always say that I was like the Statue of Liberty of Vicel Unified. Send me, you're tired, you're poor, whoever I can get in there. And we had great success. Now we're the Academy of Ag, Bioscience, and Technology. We have AVID for every student that comes in our doors to ensure comprehensive college preparation. And we are seeing our student population change a little bit, although we have quite a variety. That 301 students represents kind of the gamut from fast track students that want to get their AAs and multiple degrees to students that are we have a lot of first generation college students, and we love that come to see what it's all about going to college and get prepared. So we have 158 students enrolled at COS this semester from 9th to 12th grade. All of our freshmen are enrolled in the Human Development 121 class. We have 65% enrolled this semester. The graduates enrolled at COS this year, our graduated seniors, 45 of 50 enrolled, 90% of them enrolled at COS. And a lot of it was, as Eric was saying, they're comfortable at COS. They continue there. Some of them don't have that many credits left to earn to get their AA, so they stay and then they transfer. We had several come back and tell us that they transferred, that they're transferring and where they're going and that sort of thing. But they do tend to continue because this is where they've gone since they were freshmen. What I like to highlight is what we do for academic preparation for that seamless transition. We put a lot of concerted effort into bringing freshmen in, helping them to develop a plan. It's a 10-year plan. In Human Development 121, they start with their freshman year and they plan through college and into their career and backwards plan for which college has the majors that they are interested in for their career and what they need to take and how they're going to matriculate through college. We have offered the Ag 119 Student Success Course, which is a course focused on how to be successful at COS. We have a Zeros Not Accepted policy, which is the only school in Vicel Unified or in the area that has that policy. And what that is that when students come into VTech, they are not allowed not to complete their work. Since we have a lot of first generation college students, we try to help them learn how to be students and how to be good students. So some students come into high school and don't understand that you need to turn in all your work, you need to take all your work seriously. So we try to help them understand that. We have a midday RTI period. Students that don't complete work or fail a test or don't do work up to the quality that we know it needs to be early college students go to a class before lunch on Fridays and they redo their assignments or they retake their tests. They have to study and prove. In AVID, they have like a tutorial request form that they have to fill out and say, this is what I need to do so that I can work on that again and learn that information. We have mandatory afternoon VTech Success classes on Tuesday afternoons, and we hire COS tutors to come in as AVID tutors to work with the students in those classes. We have like a section of math where we have COS tutors come in. A couple of them are now our ex-students, which we really like. So they have been there, they come back. And so far we have a 100% graduation rate, which we're very proud of. So we have had our pathway in the classes that we've offered, our COS courses, have been a little more random. Our pathways are now, we're kind of more strategically planning where the classes are and what they'll be so that students will come out with more units and they'll come out in the areas that they need them so that they can get more accomplished more quickly. But that is it for me. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all the partnership and help that COS has been. Dr. Carrizosa's, or Mr. Carrizosa's on our advisory board, and he's been a faithful member, always coming and supporting us. And this is my last year at VTech. I'm retiring. I just want to say how appreciative I have been of everybody at COS and how much they've supported VTech and helped it to become as successful as it has. So thank you.
Now VTech is located at the old COS farm?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the old COS farm, and if you happen to be passing by, we just opened our farm store, and we're selling eggs and produce and our alfalfa and all that. So stop in. Dr. Lucerna's parents were in buying produce and eggs. So stop in and you'll see what the students are producing. It's pretty exciting. Thank you.
Yes, yes, my parents were there and I heard, oh, I went to your COS farm store. I went, we don't have a COS farm store. So it's I'm the vice president. My parents still don't know that that's VTech, but no, they got it. So yeah, they still see it as COS. But anyway, I asked Eric and Vicki to stay in case you have some questions at the end. But one of the things I've really enjoyed is a really close working relationship with both of them. And I think that they've both done a fabulous job keeping us informed, keeping us connected, and with the collaboration that we have. So we really appreciate that. Brandon Hildreth was presented to you a couple of months ago. He is our director of dual enrollment, and he normally will give this presentation, but he is at the National Distance Education Conference right now. In Washington, D.C., and so he is there at this point. So I'm going to talk about our dual enrollment with our local feeder high schools, and as you know, our dual enrolled classes are courses that happen during the school day, so they're different than the ones we offer after school, our Old Bridge program, those kinds of things. They're offered at the high schools during the instructional day. They are college courses and they are tuition free, which is a really good benefit, obviously, for our students because they're able to take those classes at no cost while they're still enrolled in high school, and they're able to take up to 11 units at no cost. And so here I wanted to give you and because most of our courses right now at the high schools are in English, I wanted to give you the update as to our success rates in just the English courses. And so as you can see, we vary from 100% success rate to about a 57% success rate in our dual enrolled courses. This is for fall of 16, and we had English 1 courses, which is our transfer level English course, and our English 251, which is our pre-transfer level English course in Corcoran, Exeter, Hanford, Lindsay. We had 1 Visalia Mount Whitney class. We also had VTech and Tulare Union and Western and Woodlake. And I wanted to just, and not in a comparison, because I really think there, as you heard from both principals, Vicki and Eric, that the time and the energy that the high schools are able to put in with their students who are taking college courses is really unique. And so we have really high success rates because they do have those wraparound services. We also offer that here, but the high schools are able to be a little more intrusive with their students, make mandatory attendance, making sure they have their books, making sure that they're doing their homework, and providing any of the support that they need right away. And so the work that they do with their students, I think, is really helpful in these success rates. Just for your information, our overall College of Sequoia's success rate in fall of 16 for English 1 was 62%, and for English 251 was also 62%. And then what we're defining, just point out is that we're defining successful course completion as the ratio of successful grade, so A, B, C, credit or pass, to all grades for the courses. Then for spring, our English success rates were also ranged from about 60% to 100% at the various high schools. We had English 1, we had one section of English 251, and then our English 2, which is the next level that you take on to your whatever college you're going to. And the COS, the overall success rates for spring 17 were English 1, 60%, English 2, 83%, and English 251, 57%. So I also wanted to share with you kind of the impact. I think what Vicki and Eric both said was, UPHS had 34 students come to COS, and Vicki had 45 attend COS. These are our other schools, and this is a little difficult to track because we would take any student at that high school that was enrolled. So, for example, in Corcoran, we had 31 students enrolled at census in our English courses, and then as of, and 71, okay, sorry, 71, it's backwards, I apologize. 71 students enrolled in English 251 or 1 at Corcoran in the fall or spring of last year, and 31 of those students came to COS this year. And so again, it's a little difficult to track because some of those students might have been juniors, and so they're seniors this year. And so they may not have come because they went to, they're still in high school, right? Or some of them may have gone to UC or CSU, or they may not have started college yet. So it's a little difficult for us to track, but that's our number. So at Exeter, we have 20 students. The Hanford schools, 7 each, and 8 at Sierra Pacific. Lindsay, 5. Mount Whitney, 7, Orosi, 6, and again, you've already heard Woodlake, 11, and you've already heard 34 from UPHS and 45 from VTech, and our number here was 40 because it might have been someone who took English their sophomore year or their junior year, so they weren't in that number for us. And then I just wanted to share where we are for this fall. So this fall we have these classes. We have ASL, Counseling and English at Corcoran, English and Psychology at Exeter. We have Animal Science and English at Lindsay, Human Development at La Sierra, English and History at Orosi, and English at Woodlake. We also have Hanford, we have English and Business. And this Sierra Pacific course is the first time we've offered that, and it's very similar to what you heard from Vicki Porter, that we were looking at their oh my gosh, I've lost the word, but their what are those things called? Their pathways. And this is the last class in their business pathway. So those students who have gone through the business pathway at Sierra Pacific will be taking a COS business class in the fall and the spring of their senior year. And this is a new model for us, but we're really looking forward to seeing how that works. And then we have Tulare Western and Union English, and at the Tulare Accelerated Charter High School, we have our electrician training course. And then we have, at UPHS, there's numerous courses, as you heard from Principal Thiessen, but we do have numerous students enrolled in American Sign Language, Music, and Spanish, and then numerous other classes. And at VTech, we have 2 English courses and our Human Development course. So that is the general overview, and now we're available for any questions that you have for the 3 of us.
On this dual enrollment, does the district claim ADA and do we get FTS?
Yes, we're able to, by the law, there's a formula, a minimum number of minutes that the high school student needs to meet for the high school district to claim their ADA, and then we're able to claim apportionment as long as we are covering the cost of instruction.
Thank you. Some of the high schools did better than others. Have you guys put any thought into why, and do you need to do anything?
That's a very big question. We are looking at that, and we have constant discussions with the schools. As you know, we've hired a new dual enrollment director, and we also have our student success specialists who are out in the schools, and we have numerous follow-up. We have a lot of follow-up with the counselors and the principals, and I think it's a pretty open dialogue about what's working and what's not working, and so we are constantly looking at that. I don't know if we have a specific plan in place right now, but we do have a lot of open dialogue and regular communication about what's going well and what's not working.
I know some of the schools are 100% and some are barely 50, and there's something different in those two certain environments, and I don't know what you do, but hopefully someone's reviewing it.
Yeah, we'll be continuing to look at that.
How do we determine what we're going to offer at these particular high schools? Is it by the request of the high school that we have in Orosi, let's say we have 20 students interested in business? Is it the fact that we have a difficulty maybe finding an instructor, or combination of things?
It's a combination of all of that, and so we have open, constant dialogue with them. And so we have our dual enrollment director out there. There's conversations that the high schools do requests, and then also they meet with our division chairs, our deans, and our directors to see what might fit, what might not. And then from actually Dr. Russell's area, Michael Niehoff and Margarita Camacho and Lauren Kelly would be the other one, right? Yeah, they're out in the high schools on a regular basis looking at our career technical education, and so making assessments of what's needed at the high schools. And then we're doing a lot of work collaborating, like we said, with their pathways to see what makes sense, especially in their senior year, as far as getting through those pathways and having a COS experience. So I think where we are right now, my assessment would be we've gotten pretty good at the English part of it, and now expanding to some of the other areas is where we're focused, and we're having a lot of communication about what makes sense at those high schools. There's a lot of things to consider, like do they have the facilities and the infrastructure? If they want a business class, do they have a lab? If they want an animal science class, do they have animals? So there's those kinds of things to consider. But then also teacher scheduling, and do they have a qualified teacher is really important part of that conversation. So the requests start from either side, and then they move through the process, and faculty are involved in the discussion as well.
Thank you.
Are there more Visalia schools coming on board or not?
That is our hope, and so we've been, I know our director has been meeting with the two representatives from Visalia Unified, and then I had a meeting last Friday with one of their area superintendents, and so they all, I think 6 of them, just went down to the dual enrollment conference a week ago in LA, and so they're in conversations, and so our hope is that we will have classes other than VTech and UPHS up and running in Visalia in the fall of next year.
Anything else?
And I just want to thank our principals for being here. We really appreciate their
You're not gonna
time.
make them stay for the
Even
rest
though I wouldn't let her talk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I just, if I could. Wait, don't go yet, Vicki, don't go. Mr. President, if I could, just very quickly, I wanted to echo Jennifer's thanks and commendation to our 2 principals who are here tonight. The partnerships to make this work are based on having good relationships and being able to collaborate and spend time together, but they are the kind of partnerships every year that have multiple variables, so you can never really take for granted that we have it all set. You have to have an ongoing good relationship, and you have to have an understanding from both parties of what the other side needs and how to reach out to each other in positive ways. And these 2 principals have made the successes, particularly at VTech and UPHS, as good as they are because of their ability to have that flexibility and that collaborative spirit, and know that even though we work really great together, it's never on automatic. It requires constant effort, constant work, constant attention. And because we pay that attention to it, it works. But we never assume it's on automatic. It takes constant work. So thank you guys for that. And congratulations, Vicki, on your retirement.
Thank you.
That leads us to the consent calendar. I'll read each item. If anyone on the board or in the audience wishes any of them to be removed and treated as a regular agenda item, let me know. The first is the minutes of the previous meeting, a personnel report, payment of bills, working budget approval, and the community college search services agreement. Anyone wish any of those items to be removed from the consent calendar? Hearing none, is there a
Move we
motion?
approve. Second.
Approved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. That leads us to item 7 on the agenda, curriculum, new, modified, and deleted. Dr. Lacerna.
Hi, so it is recommended that the board approve the attached list of courses and programs as part of the college's curriculum. And again, as we talked about at our last meeting, the courses now are, the final approval lies here with the board, but I want to remind you that those have been through a very robust curriculum committee review, and they go through the deans and the faculty, and then are approved by the academic senate before they come here to the board. And so again, on your first page, we have 2 new courses, one in livestock merchandising, which is for the livestock show team, and then one in computer architecture and organization that's required for the new associate degree for transfer in computer science. We have course modifications at the bottom of the page that are for a reactivation of one course and then updates on the other. And then on page 2, you have a course modification, 2 course modifications for 5-year review. And that second one has a whole list of courses. Those are all of our work experience courses that all need to be updated this past year. Then at the bottom of the page, there's 2 course deletions for courses no longer being taught. And on your that's it. That's the last page. So is recommended the board approve the curriculum report.
Any questions of Dr. Lacerna?
This is under the new program where it didn't go any further than us. Is that in effect?
If we were proposing new courses for approval, but this is just our regular curriculum, new and modified.
All of these are now under the new format. So they've been approved by everyone at the college up to this point. So they've been through curriculum committee and academic senate, me, the deans, and now they're here. And the board, once the board approves them, they just go directly to the chancellor's office. The chancellor's office no longer approves them. They just put them into the system and assign a number,
So we'll be
they're
able to
new
move,
or modified.
Yeah, we'll be able to move much more quickly now, Greg, after board approval.
So normally what would happen is after the board approved it, it would go to the chancellor's office, and it might take 3 months, 4 months for us to hear back from them. Now it's automatically approved.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
You gonna make a motion, Earl?
Yeah, I move we accept the changes on the curriculum.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the recommendation. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item 8, ratification of tentative agreement reached between the district and CASAFA on the 2017-2018 reopeners. Mr. Bratch.
We're currently operating under a 3-year contract with our Adjunct Faculty Association. The contract doesn't expire until June of 2019. However, this past spring, both sides had the option and both sides chose to open up compensation. After about a week and a half of negotiating, I'm pleased to say that we were able to reach a tentative agreement with the Adjunct Faculty Association. The tentative agreement was included in your packet. Again, this was just for reopeners, so the items were very limited. But the items that we did reach agreement on, I'm going to ask for your ratification, is on salary. Effective August 1st of 2017, the adjunct faculty salary schedule shall be increased by 4%, which is in line with the other bargaining units on campus. Also, effective August 1st of 2017, the annual Faculty Enrichment Committee budget was increased from $2,000 to $10,000. This is a benefit to our adjunct faculty as it provides them with professional development. And finally, And perhaps most importantly is that we agreed to, effective July 1st of 2017, that the office hour budget for adjunct faculty should increase from 40,000 to 65,000. This directly benefits our students here on campus. So we're pleased to have reached that agreement. And with that, I'd ask that the board ratify this tentative agreement reached between the district and CASAFA.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. And thank you for bringing that to us so promptly. Item 9 is a change order for the COS Hanford Educational Center modular classroom. Mr. Woods.
Yes, good evening. I'm going to start by, well, with this change order, item number 9, it's composed of 2 different items. We've got PCO number 1, the footing depth increase, and PCO number 2, door credit or door revisions. I'll dive into PCO number 1 first and give you some details, mainly on the scheduling. That's what kind of drove this. You'll see in October 2016 that the district approved Enviroplex's proposal for the construction of the modular building itself. That proposal included the specific floor plan layouts that the district requested. And due to the scheduling, in order to get it submitted into DSA, get the review, the bidding, et cetera, everything lined up in order to meet our January 2018 opening date, they had included the DSA pre-approved utility and structural drawings. So the plans were submitted to DSA in December 2016, and they were reviewed by DSA in April 2017. So during that waiting period, the structural engineer received the copy of the geotech soils report for that site. He immediately noticed that due to the conditions of the soil, liquefaction in the soil, the 12-inch footing size that was noted in the plans was not going to be adequate. So the structural engineer revised the plans during the DSA review to a depth of 54 inches, and they were resubmitted and approved by DSA on April 20th. Now the original proposal from Enviroplex, like I said, was for just a 12-inch footing. In August of 2017, the district was notified of the increased cost as a result of that increased footing depth. I immediately got that cost and I said, well, how do we know if this is accurate? We need to be able to verify, how realistic this cost is. We had Enviroplex actually obtain multiple bids. They had a bid from their subcontractor. Bush Construction's already on site for the modular site work portion of the project, as well as a pavilion project going on out there. So they went ahead and priced all the concrete in the project as well. Bush Construction actually came back with a little less cost for the concrete work in the modular project. But what we found out was, based on those 2 costs, they were competitive. Bush's cost was realistic, and ultimately the increased footing depth, as requested by DSA, resulted in a net cost increase of $94,000. The majority of that cost, as noted there, is due not just to the amount of concrete that's involved, but the structural steel involved in the detail. So I talked to the structural engineer myself. He says he's seen this probably on a handful of jobs recently that he's done, specifically up in Hollister. I know that's not Central Valley, but that was one example that he told me about. So with that, Enviroplex has submitted PCO number 1, labor material costs for the increased footing requirements, proposed added cost to the contract, $94,793. PCO number 2 is a door credit. Now this was requested by the district to omit the installation of the door hardware and locks from the contract. These services will be completed by the district's locksmith vendor, mainly due to the fact that it's going to accommodate the access control system hardware at each doorway. So we've got our vendor that we go to for that. So that's a credit of $2,010.
How deep is the foundation for the college that's over there? Isn't that on the same soil?
It's on the same soil. I would have to verify that. I do not know. I did pull up, I went through my documents and I found out that the geotech report actually references the original soils investigation that was completed in 2007. And so what they found in 2007, I know it's 10 years ago, What they found in 2007 was that groundwater was detected between 17 and 23 feet below grade. When they completed the most recent soils report in 2016, they only went down to 15 feet and did not find groundwater. Yeah, exactly. But I think, this is just my opinion, I think the consultant that completed those reports, I think that the data found in 2007's report is just kind of in their back of the mind thinking, you know, this could happen again. So they went ahead and based the design on the 2007 data that they found, which was a 16 feet below groundwater level. And groundwater's always changing.
John, is that normal
It's
over there, or is
difficult.
it just because we're a state institution, or what?
Hanford's hard to say what normal is. You know, most Hanford soils. You know, maybe I should go ahead and start over again.
Tell us why the water smells.
You know, the communities around here where the soils are the most uniform is like Selma. I don't care where you go in Selma, soil's identical. Doing a soil report over there is a waste of time. It's always the same. Visalia is not quite to that degree as, say, Selma is, but it's pretty uniform too. Hanford is a really jumbled up mess. I've seen a place where one project has soils that are what you're more typically used to, a mixture of sands and silts and such. And then right next to it was a project that first time I ever saw here was actually pottery grade clay. It was you'd think you were in Corcoran by looking at it. I've seen places in town where you get honeycomb. Honeycomb is real bad. What happened is some prehistoric time, some humongous flood came out of the Sierras, maybe the Ice Age, and the ice dam broke, or who knows. And when it did that, it washed all kinds of vegetation and trees and such down, and they get covered up in the soil, and they rot. Now there's voids.
It's porous.
And the soils are granular soils, but they're lightly cemented. There's enough fines in the soil of clays that kind of hold together. And so if you superimpose loads on them and then saturate them, kaplunk. Okay, now this isn't the circumstance here. But if you look at the bores he has, you go to any other project where you do half a dozen bores or whatever, every one of them is different. And what causes the primary issues that cause liquefaction are a combination of cohesionless soils, sand, and water. And if you ever get a vibrations like from an earthquake, the water in those pores will cause the particles to shift around, and the weight on top goes kaplunk, settles down. We move over a little ways, and maybe the soils aren't those cohesionless items. Now, water table on the west side of Hanford, I don't know. It varies from it varies by season a lot. It varies by year a lot. It's higher in the summer than it is in the winter. Some places it's, according to that, 17 to 23 feet. You go about where City Hall is, and it's about 80 feet. You go down to the airport, and it's probably 130 feet. Go to Armona, which is a mile and a half east of there, and it might be 8 feet. And unless you have an hour.
I really wasn't expecting this kind of an answer.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Well, I'm gonna have Dr. Lacerna issue a credit for tonight's board meeting, college credit.
So anyway,
Geoscience.
if you're asking me to suggest whether what Byron said, the soil structural engineer said is true, I have no idea. But I do know the soils are, just because it worked in one spot doesn't mean, in Hanford, doesn't mean 200 feet away, it's the same thing.
So, but we really don't have a choice. Either that or you just quit building.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to scheduling. I mean, there was something we could have done. We could have, if we would have started this a lot sooner, we could have been able to get that information to the structural engineer sooner. Ultimately, the cost of the proposal between the district and Enviroplex would have been increased no matter what to accommodate soil conditions.
So if you just start over again, and you did more testing instead of relying on 2003 and studied maybe trends and such, you might get a deeper water level, which might change the result, and you'd miss a semester. Also, it might not change a thing.
If we did it last year in a dry year, we may have gotten by.
We could, yeah.
How about our pavilion? What kind of a footing do we have?
Same exact report for that. In fact, the over-X on that, it was beyond 10 feet below for just the over-X. The footing itself, that's a different type of foundation that they're putting in for that. So they've got caissons, pylons in the ground. I don't know the exact, without looking at the plans, I don't know.
See, instead of having real deep footings, you can also dig all the soil up, which they did to a depth of 10 feet.
They went, 10 feet on the pavilion. For this, they did 7 feet.
Make it denser so that it's less likely to happen.
They put a fabric down too, and underneath the
And
pavilion.
if it wasn't a school, nobody'd worry about it. That's true too.
Right.
All righty.
It's your turn.
Oh, I guess,
I don't know whether we want to do this or not.
Well, Bella can make the motion on
I
this one.
make
There's
a-
only 3 of you. So.
I make a motion that we approve the change order reluctantly, but we'll do it.
Second.
for a second today, I'm afraid to ask for any discussion. Is there any discussion?
Let's hope not.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. That leads us to number 10, change order on the COS Hanford Educational Center modular classroom site work. Mr. Woods.
Yes, so on the same project, we actually have 2 contractors on site. We've got Enviroplex that's creating that's constructing the building, and then we have Bush Construction performing the site work in preparation to accommodate that building. This change order, it's also got 2 components to it. The first one, PCO number 1, is to remove and replace some concrete flat work. During site demolition, as you'll see, the plans only call out minimal concrete removal of the walkways to accommodate new trenching and new utilities. So after that demolition took place, there was a patch, I call it an island of concrete walkway, 6 inches thick, about 1,000 square feet. A lot of it had some cracks going through it, and there was some lifting going on. And I thought, now is the time to do it. If we're ever going to address it, I would much rather address it during this project just to avoid any trip and fall hazards in the future after we open up that building. So I got a cost from Bush Construction. The cost to remove and replace the concrete flat work is $8,750. PCO number 2, rerouting the domestic water. Now this kind of falls on some unclear drawings from the architect. A portion of the existing work is missing from the plans. It's some concrete planter work, some walkways, and the rerouting. Actually, this includes rerouting the new water line feeding from the education building to the modular classroom building. Labor and materials for the reroutes, $2,129. So it's recommended the Board of Trustees approve change order number 1 for the proposed site work improvements in the amount of $10,879, 0 additional days added to Bush Construction's contract.
Any questions?
I move we approve.
Second.
Under discussion, I'd have a question.
Yes.
You said there was some raising of the concrete. Have you done anything to maybe prevent it from raising again?
Yes, in fact, that was poor construction from the first time around. So the 6-inch concrete should always have rebar in it. This one did not. So it's moving at the joints. You got about a 1-inch lip on those. But all the new concrete we're putting in out there, anything above 4 inches is all going to be reinforced.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Finally is number 11, change order for pool modernization. Mr. Woods.
Yeah, so here on the Visalia campus, we are currently have the pool modernization project taking place. So this change order includes 2 items as well. So PCO number 1 is the gutter lip repair. I'd like to go ahead and skip down to the picture if you have that available. So during demolition, the contractor brought to the architect's attention that the much of the concrete gutter lip was decaying. The original plans intended to reuse that gutter lip, and create the formwork needed to accommodate the new tile and plaster surfacing. But it was not salvageable. So you can see, no, it does not look good at all. So we actually have, the architect does have a pool consultant that they are using, Aquatics Design Group. They talked to them, and they recommend a replacement of the entire gutter lip, saw cutting at level, and then actually doweling in to the gutter and creating a new structurally sound gutter lip. So the cost we have there, $13,567.80 is the cost to replace the entire perimeter gutter lip there. With 0 days added to the contract. PCO number 2 is liquidated damages. So a pre-construction meeting was held with all parties at the site on May 31st. The dates are most important here. Notice to proceed was provided on June 7th per the contractor's request. 105 calendar days schedule put them at a completion date of September 19th, 2017. You'll notice it's October. We did our best to make that date. However, we kept close tabs on the contractor. You'll see some dates documented there. Demolition phase went very smoothly. However, around July 20th through August 15th, the site experienced very minimal progress. I was in constant communication with the architect. He was constantly communicating with the contractor. The contractor told us what we needed to hear, or what we wanted to hear, not what we needed to hear. And ultimately, we scheduled weekly construction meetings as of October 22nd, knowing that we were just a month out from our anticipated completion date. August 22nd, thank you, Stan. The contractor gave us updated schedules. We realized that some of them were not realistic. He also replaced his superintendent on the project, and at that point, that superintendent put together a realistic schedule that he felt he could meet. The contract end date, or the new completion date for the project, was changed from September 19th. I think it was changed a couple times, but ultimately the most recent schedule is next Monday, October the 16th. I've been on that site almost every day for the past couple weeks. I feel very confident that we're going to hit Monday's deadline. In fact, I've already told Brent Davis, athletic director, that you can go ahead and schedule bodies in the pool for that day. So, back to the contract. October 16th is 27 calendar days beyond the original September 19th completion date. Our contract documents the specs. The project manual identifies a penalty of $1,000 each day, extended by the contractor. So the district will be pursuing liquidated damages for this delay. The exact amount to be determined, I wrote that because at the time that the board agenda item was due, I wasn't sure if that 16th was actually going to be the day. I feel very confident, like I said, probably a 99% chance it's going to be that day. So we're looking at a credit from the contractor of $27,000 due to the delays in the schedule. With both of those, it's recommended that the Board of Trustees approve change order number 1 for the site improvements and schedule revisions identified above. The estimated total cost of change order number 1 shall be a credit to the district of $13,432.20, comprised of the $13,567.80 owed to the contractor for the gutter lip repair, and an estimated $27,000 credit amount to be finalized owed back to the district.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Move we accept the change order on the pool remodel.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Now, if somehow I could manage to find the gavel without making another mistake. You have anything else?
Hit
Adjourned.
that thing.